Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dad Casual, where full time dads and casual gamers come together to discuss everything we love about the games we wish we had more time to play. Thanks for being here. If you would, please take a moment to follow and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and your favorite podcast platform of choice, and leave us a review. And if you ever have any questions, topics, or thoughts, feel free to email dadcasualpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And without further ado, this is Dad Casual. Hey, all you filthy casual gamers out there. It's episode 14 over here, and we've got some fun topics for you today. Don't stress about the title. We won't actually be spoiling anything today, but we will be talking about what is a spoiler. And it's about time we've cleared this up. And be sure to send this episode to that annoying friend that always spoils your games and movies and TV shows for you. He might need to know too. And in the Halloween spirit, we're also going to talk a little bit about our favorite spooky games. Not necessarily horror games, but spooky games. And as usual, we've got the whole crew here. We've got Houston.
Hi.
We've got Preston.
Spoiler alert.
Heyo.
Yes, sir. And of course, I'm Andy as usual.
He did the thing where you say the name of the movie in the show. He did the thing.
He said the thing. Guys, I'm drinking coffee at 11:15 at night. I think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, bro. But
you're a brave man.
It's okay. Hold on. First off, I got this new Keurig. It's like they're these cappuccinos that I don't have to add cream or anything to. My wife found them, and they're awesome. I should have got one of the K cups and like told you what the brand name is, but I love them, and they don't have as much caffeine, so maybe I'll be okay.
An espresso that doesn't have as much caffeine as like a regular coffee.
No, a cappuccino.
Oh, sorry, just cappuccino. Gotcha. Cool.
I don't think it's actually made with espresso. I don't know. You know, I think an actual cappuccino is supposed to be, but
it's espresso and milk. Yeah. Anyway, guys.
Anyway,
I know none of you care about this, and most of our listeners probably won't. But it's hockey season, and I'm excited about that.
Oh man,
I know I'm alone in that. But
what's the best part about hockey?
The fighting,
the fights
right?
for
That's
sure. It's also just a more fast-paced game than most other sports. It's just nonstop, just bam, 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 and like the field is a lot smaller, and so it just feels quicker. It's more energetic. It's like
Gotcha.
A lot of quick subs with all the players and stuff. Like every player plays during the game. It's crazy. Yeah, except for the backup goalie.
I watched a little bit. I had a roommate in college that was like, he was from Michigan, and like he was so huge into hockey, and I thought maybe like I would get into it. I don't know, kind of.
It's different. Like if you ever get the chance to go to an NHL game, if you're ever in a city that has an NHL team, take it. It's like we were talking about that earlier. It's like anything at the highest level is awesome.
It's cool.
Is cool and it's awesome to watch. Hockey especially.
Because you have at least an appreciation for it, right? Like you're like, you know what? I might not be into this, but I see why people are into this. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, and the fighting, like literally the only reason that people fight is to pump up their teams. That's it. Like, I mean, they'll have beef.
That's amazing.
But then they'll literally find excuses to fight, and then they'll just like call out another player across the ice and be like, "Let's go!" And then they just drop gloves and they go at it.
Fun dad lesson I use from hockey. I pull it from hockey when I'm talking to Noah, my 8-year-old, about Riley or vice versa. Is that sometimes a kid will do something like, let's say Riley hits Noah, and like I'm like, Riley, you got to go to timeout, and then I'll go to Noah and I'll be like, Noah, you also get a punishment, and he'll go, why? And I'll go, and I've said this before. I say, because in hockey you get 2 minutes for instigating too, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Like. If you are taunting him to hit you, you're not going to get as bad of a punishment because hitting's worse. We never hit, but you're going to get something.
Nice.
We never hit unless we're in hockey.
You can't just be in their face like, hit me, bro, hit me. I'm like, well, now you're just asking for it, man. So
that's amazing.
I think the one that hit them should not be in trouble.
Hot take. Yeah, we do both. We say even when someone gets in your face in public, you shouldn't hit. You better have a good answer. You hit a hit at the park and he was being a bully. There might be a situation you're not in trouble, but
just be prepared to fight back, you know.
Yeah. Or the kid hits you first, but just instigating, no, I don't want you to hit.
Good preemptive dad tip right there. I love that.
Yeah, hockey related too. There it is. Boom, dad casual. So anyway, guys, I want to totally jump kind of right into it today. We don't have a ton of news. It's not a news day necessarily for us, but I think this will be a fun break and flow. And we're going to, with Halloween coming up, I wouldn't say any of us are like horror game fans. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Not even, we'll get to it, but not really.
Yeah. So, but I do think I always like saying the phrase spooky games because there are some spooky, not actually scary, but the theme is spooky and Halloween is fun. And so I thought each of us could talk about, it doesn't have to be like a favorite game of all time, but it definitely just some games that you like or that you think would be good games to play with your kids or some ideas for the season. So, Preston, how about you go ahead and start us off? Do you have a game for us?
Yeah. I would probably say as a Halloween game, Luigi's Mansion 3 on Switch.
Yes,
I don't think it's
great
available
choice.
on anything else, but
yeah, it's a good choice.
Yeah, I did not play any of the other ones, so
me neither.
Talk about that.
Oh, the original is so amazing. But go ahead.
Do you like it better?
I think the novelty of it is strongest in the first one, obviously. And on it was a great story that they started off with. I think they kind of try to shoehorn it in a little bit more every time they've created a new one. That's why the gaps between them have been so long. But yeah, the first one is really great. I haven't finished the third one. I own it, so I'll let you know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think they're all pretty great.
Yeah, I loved the play. I love Mario, obviously. So this is a good second place, I guess.
Yeah, tell people about it if they don't know anything about the franchise or the gameplay. Describe the game a little.
Yeah, so it's a 3D exploring game, I guess. A puzzle explorer, I guess.
Adventure.
Yeah, and it's a little. If you've played Mario, it's a lot of like the creepy levels feeling. So not scary, but creepy kind of things. Bowser dungeons type feel. But I think he's if I remember correctly, he's on a vacation with Mario, and then gets invited to a hotel that happens to be haunted, basically. And it's a ploy to capture Luigi and Mario. And basically you're trying to get out of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you have the Poltergust.
Yes.
Your gun.
Magical vacuum thing.
Yeah. Vacuum thing. Ghostbuster pack.
And a flashlight and a few other things.
So you're essentially like a Ghostbuster.
Really cool.
You're Luigi as a Ghostbuster, and then everyone gets trapped in the paintings, and you're trying to free them.
Yeah, and you get to play as Gooigi as well. I think that's his name.
Yeah, they made this one. That was the twist. They made this technically like a 2-player /
2-player,
like dual single player game thing.
It's still really one player, but yeah, you could have a partner play Gooigi.
Yep. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I liked the story. I won't spoil it or anything. Spoilers are bad, as we will talk about later.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. Puzzle games always, I love those, and this has a great mixture of puzzles and I think nostalgia of Mario and Luigi. So yeah, that would be my spooky game, my spooky season game.
That's a good one. I really like how each floor of the hotel or the mansion, and it's a hotel in the third one, not really a mansion, but each floor is themed super unique and differently. Like one is a movie theater floor, or one is this nature floor with it's like a greenhouse, and everyone is different. And then the bad guys or the ghosts that you're fighting. And it is really cool how like it's puzzle, but there's still combat too. Like you'll have to flash your flashlight so you can see the ghost, and then you grab them, and then you might like, I don't know. It's pretty fun. It's fun how like there's not that many mechanics, but then that's just Nintendo though, right? Like they just stretch those mechanics really far, and it's really fun.
Yeah, agreed. If you have the ability to play any of the Luigi's Mansion games, then definitely do. They're extremely fun games.
And I would argue it is not too scary for kids, unless maybe you have like a 2 or 3 year old or like very young child that is easily scared. Obviously, use your own judgment. I found my kids were both pretty fine with it.
Yeah, and especially like if you have like the 5 to 10-year-old kid like who can actually like control, like grab a controller, like handing it over to them and having them play the other character, the Gooigi character, is actually seems like a really fun time.
Yeah, for the puzzles especially. Good one. That's a great one. All right, Houston, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit older with this, a lot older. I'm going to say the Last of Us series. Yeah, bit different of a take. So this time we're going PlayStation exclusive instead of Nintendo exclusive. But it is.
But they just released that game. No, I'm just kidding.
Brand new.
Very funny. We have a whole episode about what's in remakes, and so you can definitely go listen to that and our whole discussion about it. But the series is immaculate. It's such an amazing, rich, gripping, visceral zombie apocalypse type story. So much so that they're making an HBO series about it that's coming out the first of the year.
Yeah.
But you play as you play as a couple of different characters, but like these survivors in this post-apocalyptic world that are kind of just, there's a pretty big secret and spoiler to the story that you are tied to with one of these characters, and you're trying to protect them and go about the world and get from point A to point B for a certain reason. But then you run into all these different people that have gone through certain hardships and that are like out to get you or there to help you. But
Houston, why in a universe with 1,000 zombie games, why this zombie game?
It's a fantastic question. I think because the attention to story and the love put into it in terms of like how deep of a story it is, and like how real the world feels and how lived in it feels and how emotional and true to life the characters are in this made up scenario of this post-apocalyptic world. I think just there is no comparison in almost all of video games for how actually tied to real life this game feels while still being a fiction.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the characters are the answer. I think they're just really, really good character building and world building too. But I think they feel real. Like there was a great video, maybe it was Donkey or someone else, where they talked about how like in other video games, like a lot of video games, you talk, and then I talk, and then you talk, and it's like this like robotic characters. But in real life, like just now, Houston, Preston, you like talked over me a little bit at the end of my sentence, and like that's how humans communicate. Like, and video games screw that up all the time.
Yeah, this
and that's fascinating that Naughty Dog in general does that very well.
They do, and it feels more like a movie than a game at times, which is really cool to me. I love those types of games that are that immersive that you can just buy into it story wise like that.
Yeah.
And then it
definitely not a fun game.
No, it is like, it's so weird to say that. It's not a fun game at all, but it is so worth playing.
That's probably a good like step up between like, it's not horror. Well, I say that there are times that are very scary in that game.
It is.
There's lots not for kids. Totally the opposite of what I said earlier about.
No, there's language and sexual themes and gore and all kinds of stuff. And there's jump scares and there's horrible, disgusting monsters and stuff. So,
but it's not Resident Evil scary. I don't think
it's not. Its main
not
goal,
on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean? Like
the main goal of the game is not to be a horror game. It's to be a gripping thriller.
Yeah, or I would almost go as far as saying a drama with thriller.
It's a very sad game. Yeah, Both of them are.
Because where Resident Evil is like horror every minute of the game, this is like, there are moments that are scary, but there's reprieve too. You get these areas that are not like that.
Yeah. There's some very emotional, heartfelt moments for sure.
Yeah. Cool. The one I was going to mention was Until Dawn. I think Until Dawn is definitely more on the horror side, but what's great about Until Dawn is it's not as much of it's such a good game if you aren't good at games. It's a great game. I've talked about, I think in another episode, like it's great to play with your spouse. It's in the like Heavy Rain or Detroit Become Human, or a game where it's more about you're watching, like it's almost, like the choose your own adventure books when we were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's that in video game form. So it's like you're constantly given these decisions of what you're going to do. And the way my wife and I played it when we played together was like we wanted to keep everyone alive. And so there's like 10 characters and they're all going up to this mountain, like hotel or like place, like cabin. But then it's like a snowstorm. So it's kind of in the vein of like, I guess, The Shining, like the hotel with the snowstorm that you're stuck in. And so you're trying to survive and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And, it's classic horror movie tropes where people split up when they shouldn't. But gosh, it's so fun. It's so fun. And the acting's really good. It's got Rami Malek from, a lot of things, from Mr. Robot, from
the Queen movie,
the Queen movie, mm-hmm. Bohemian Rhapsody. He's a standout star from that game, and it looks like him. Like they mocapped him, and so it's great if you're looking for just a good time and not too scary, but spooky enough. I think. Like I would say, like at its height, it doesn't get as scary and because it doesn't feel as real as The Last of Us. The Last of Us feels too real. Like, yeah. But there is a bit of silliness with the like supernatural elements of like, there's a lot going on in that game. It's hard to explain. But it's a pretty fun time. It is gory though. So, I would still stand by, no kids for that one either. Keep them to Luigi's Mansion. As a side note, I was thinking about talking about Plants vs. Zombies instead of this. So that would be even younger. Like if you want like super, super not scary, but something kind of with zombies in it. Plants vs. Zombies can't go wrong. They've got a shooter version and Garden Warfare and Welcome to Neighborville, or they've got the classic Plants vs. Zombies strategy game. And my son Riley loved those games. So just a quick tip. But we are going to move on now. I'm really excited about this next topic because it kind of spurred from we have like a text conversation between, a group text between the three of us. And Houston and Preston started debating this subject. And oftentimes when something is game related and we start talking, what we'll do is we'll say, stop talking. Let's bring it to the podcast.
Booyah.
And so I want to talk about the idea of spoilers. It's such a big deal, and like especially like Marvel movies or like any movies really, and games. But I really want to break it down and ask you guys what you think. And I would like you to represent your cases. I'll be the judge, and Houston will be the defendant. No, I don't know. No, Houston's the one's arguing something's a spoiler. Okay, so. What qualifies as a spoiler, guys? What do you think? What is a spoiler in games and beyond?
Beyond.
Press. I looked up the definition.
Oh, let's hear it.
On Merriam-Webster.
Goes on the back of a car.
No, that was but that's not the first one about what we're speaking of. Information about the plot of a motion picture or TV program or video game that can spoil viewers' sense of surprise or suspense.
Okay. That's pretty broad.
It is. Like, I think a trailer could be a spoiler.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so I guess to give you a little bit more insight on what we were talking about. So Preston sent something about Gotham Knights, and he sent a video that said like 28 different costumes and all this content for Gotham Knights that the producers decided to share before the game was released. I was like, whoa, like jokingly, I was like, whoa, spoilers, get that away from me because I'm really excited about this game. And so like I saw,
and Preston didn't know what he were talking about. He was like, what do you mean? What's a spoiler?
Yeah. It's like, it's just costumes, bro. Like,
and I said, that's part of the game.
Yeah. So we got into the debate of, like, so what defines what's part of a game versus like what's a spoiler? Because there's a lot of gray area there. So I'm almost of the camp that like almost anything can be a spoiler. So based on this Merriam-Webster definition, like it has to do with the plot specifically.
Yeah, but that's a broad statement too, though. I will agree.
But I would go even broader. I would say like anything to do with the content that like,
because it could the surprise could be anything, right?
Yeah,
like you could just be like, oh my gosh, I can be that skin from the comics because I'm a huge comics fan. Like,
yeah. So I say we said there's no spoilers in here, but there is. I got one for you that's been out in the game for a little while. So Spider-Man Miles Morales. One of the big things and why this is relevant is because it's a costume. They put the costume from Into the Spider-Verse in the Miles Morales game. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever because it like looked like the animation, like very unique animation style from Into the Spider-Verse in that game that you could play. So they kind of crossed universes there. And so that was kind of like I think it's one of the last ones you can achieve and earn in that game. And so it's a very special thing to be able to get. And so I guess that's maybe why I went on the route of like costumes. It's like, oh, like costumes can be cool. Yeah. Like maybe like there's one from a comic book or like this particular IP, like maybe it's a Robin from like the Batman Forever movie back in the early 2000s or something like that. It'd be kind of like a kitschy, weird, like niche thing that would be like, oh, that's so cool that they did that. But I feel like that's very much something that could have been saved for the actual game to be a surprise.
That's where I'd have to ask is I don't disagree with you, but let's say the GTA 6 trailer finally drops tonight, which we know it won't, but it drops and they're like, there's a female protagonist or a I don't know, like this is the city they're in or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's a spoiler.
Sure.
I mean, sure.
But that's something that the developer has decided.
That's true. But
to let people know. So it is a spoiler, I guess. But
there are people that avoid trailers before content.
Yeah, there are people that completely abstain from every piece of content other than like the name.
How do they know if it's coming out?
No, I mean they know that they see the announce and like the poster or whatever, but they'll be like.
But if I saw Gotham Knights, and it said coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, and I didn't watch any trailer, and I'm like, is this a top down?
I mean, they could read the log line or see us. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it just depends.
There's definitely a very blurry gray line of like how did I write this in here? Is there a line of spoilers versus necessary information to announce what the game is about or the content or the movie or the book or whatever? And I think there is, but I think it's different for almost every piece of media.
For sure.
It's like in this game, like they straight up said, like in the first trailer. So this isn't really a spoiler, but I'll give you 3 seconds to tune out if not for Gotham Knights. They say that Batman is dead right in the first trailer. They're like, Batman's dead and we're his sidekicks taking up his mantle. And it's Red Hood, Batgirl, Robin, and Nightwing going throughout Gotham City and dealing with the aftermath of Batman's death, dealing with the Court of Owls. And so
that seems like a huge spoiler.
And so, but that's the thing, that it's like, where is the line of like, okay, like we're going to tell you about Lord of the Rings, and it's this story of these hobbits that are trying to eradicate evil from the world.
Keep walking and walking and walking.
Yeah, and then they took the eagles and dropped it over the mountain, and then that's the end of the movie, right?
I mean, they're doing a million things while walking.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so it's like, what is like an oversimplification versus like necessary beats to be able to like entice people? And so like, I'll ask you this, like, what for you builds hype versus what spoils hype, and whoever wants to take that.
I would say more like, what is the developer or whoever like sharing? Because it's technically, well, it's their art form, right? Like, we can agree on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
If they want to deliver the information in a specific way, they have the right, I suppose, to do that. I know they
have the right to do it, and we have a right not to look at it or whatever. I get that. But I would say the line would be what the developer themselves are releasing. Now, we all know that people can get a hold of a game and be like, Mario dies at the end of Mario. You know, like...
oh, my goodness.
I picked something that would never happen. So like, I think that's a spoiler, but if the developer is releasing it, and especially if it's on the website, I don't think it's technically, in my eyes, a spoiler. It's all hype, because I'll comb through a website and be like, what do they have?
Yeah, so do you think that because they're releasing so much information now that they have that much more to hide, or do you think that they're just being super open about this game?
I think there's going to be a lot of cool things that we have no idea are happening.
I would like to think so, but it just seems like they're just like, we know who a lot of the main villains are. We know all the costumes. Yeah. Like, we know the main characters. We know like the main plot of the game already. Like, normally they'll keep it pretty nebulous. Like with God of War Ragnarok. Like, I mean, I guess we know like the overarching story, but there's so much in between there that like we don't know what's going to happen. Like, for example,
right? Like,
we know Ragnarok is going to happen, and like that's a pretty definite event. But then when you inject Kratos into that story, who is not from that same mythology, it gets very different. So that's a bit of a different story. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know if specifically Gotham Knights, just because that's what sparked this conversation, is being if WB Games Montreal is being too open, or if they really do just have that much up their sleeve to hide, which I would really prefer the latter.
I guess, and as far as my point of view, I guess would be like, there's certain things that when revealed in game have an impact, and then there's certain things that like it doesn't matter where you reveal it. For me, it has an impact. Like, I'm just as excited seeing that, like the normal costumes that you can get, I'm fine seeing that in the video. I don't think seeing those games is going to give me a shocking moment. But if there's a secret costume, I'd like to not see that. Like, secrets are different. And like story beat points, or like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was part of it. Like, it's nice to have a few surprises, like in a game, not that aren't just story beats. I totally agree with that. And yeah, I do think it's on the developer a little bit. I think they need to make a decision about like they're over spoiling their own game. I mean, I've watched movie trailers where when the trailer ends, I go, I think I just watched the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, I know everything that's going to happen now. Like, you overdid it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's on no one's fault. I don't know. So this is my question for you guys. I think we've kind of each expressed a little bit what we would consider like a spoiler in our own minds. So like, what do you think the cultural expectancy is with spoilers, right? Like, because there is a line where we each have our own individual preferences. But I think like we said, there are the people out there that are like, I'm never going to watch a trailer. Well, those people, no offense, I don't think should get mad when a small detail that the developer said in the trailer, if they see that by accident, like, I don't think they can get mad at anyone, because like they're setting themselves up to have a beyond the usual isolation, right? But like, what is the expected? I remember like one time I got really mad at a friend of mine who he like the same night a movie came out posted on his public quote unquote public, his Facebook page, like the end of a movie. And I was like, and I got in a fight. And I was like, man, why would you like? Surely you can have that conversation offline. And he got real defensive. He's like, it's my personal Facebook page. I can do what I want. I'm like, yes, you can. I still think you're a jerk, but you can do it. You're right. You are free to do that if you want.
Yeah.
I would say spoilers. Like, I don't know if there's ever especially like video games are a whole different world in my opinion, because it may take you 20 hours to get to something that's a big deal, and it may take Houston 10 hours, and it may take me 40 hours, like because of how video games are. Like, I think TV shows,
go ahead, sorry,
are something like, you're like, okay, when Game of Thrones was out, like, you could spoil it on Tuesday, and I'd be like, okay, you had the time to watch it, or a week later, or whatever it is. Like, there's some normalcy to that. Whereas video games, if I were to tell you Mario dies in a video game the week it came out, people would be like, what the hell? I haven't even had time to...
Yeah, there's a whole lot more weight to it whenever you have to commit that much time to something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
I also think thumbnails and imagery is important. I think, like, for example, that link that you sent, Houston, if that would have just said in text with the Batman logo, Houston could have made his own mind up in that moment. Do I want to click this or not?
That's actually a very valid and probably a huge reason why that sparked my conversation.
So,
because you saw it instantly?
Yeah.
So, like, while I think that's important, like, they still can write that article for the people that want to see it.
Yeah, but they removed the choice to at least view part of it by designing that thumbnail the way they did.
And maybe, like, we're being a little bombastic and, like, ridiculous with, like, they wronged you. No, maybe not. But it's more of a, like, this idea of it would be extra considerate if not they did something wrong.
Sure.
You know, like, I don't want to be, like, super sensitive, but I like being surprised too. There are moments at the end of Jedi Fallen Order, or at the, like, and I'm not going to spoil that because that meant something to me. Like, there are so many moments in Elden Ring where I'm like, you know what, do some tutorials in the beginning, but at a certain point, you should just go hands off, because watching a video won't hit you the same. It won't hit you the same. And I want people, and that should be the real reason we don't spoil things for others. It's not necessarily for just because they want it. It's because, like, you should want them to experience things, especially if you love it, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, very valid. But yeah, I don't think there is a definite line for what is a spoiler for everything that could be applied universally. I don't think that exists. I think short of, like, a major, like, the major plot twist in some form of media, like, I think that's the only thing that's, like, universal. It's like, don't do this and you're good kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you guys think that, like, that the time is the funniest one too? Because it's like, in 3 days, I'm talking about the whole thing, and I'm like, I mean, that's cool. Why don't you just make, like, a private group? We do that in our Discord. So, like, the new House of the Dragon Game of Thrones show, like, we made a channel for spoilers if you're into that. Like, because we know some people really don't want to. I don't want to unless I've seen the episode.
I like to try and spoil it for you, Andy.
I didn't watch tonight's. So it's Sunday right now for us, and I don't know what happened. So anyway, yeah.
The dragons laid eggs.
Do you have any last thoughts on spoilers and the automotive accessories that they are?
Give your disclaimers. If you're going to spoil something, just at least let people know. Give them a fair chance to avoid it.
We will always try to do that on this podcast. Obviously, I will speak in, like I mentioned Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I will speak in a generic way, but some people out there might be like, I don't even want to know something big happens at the end. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to be that sensitive, but we will, at least if we ever specifically call something out, we'll let you all know.
Yeah. Word.
Cool. So next up, we want to talk a little bit about, we've done retro reviews. The last time we did a retro review, I wasn't on the episode. It was just Houston and Preston. So I thought doing a retro review would be kind of fun. And this game we've all played. So we're going to talk about last year's. It's not that retro, we're going to talk about last year's Riders Republic. I feel like that game kind of came and went a little under the radar. But Riders Republic is a sports video game where it's extreme sports. It's BMX, snowboarding. What else? It's
gliding,
snowmobiling, hang gliding, and wingsuit flying, and a bunch of different things. And I know motocross was coming, and I might already be there. You guys should fact check me on that if motocross is coming or has come. No skateboarding as of yet, though. It was developed by Ubisoft. It's on all platforms, and it was this really cool game in like multiple giant ecosystems. It was a little more arcadey than your average extreme sports game, and I think that's what made it kind of fun. They had lots of challenges, lots of outfits, lots of different things you could find, and like unlockables and discoveries and stuff. And so I just thought, what did you guys think about Riders Republic?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. It's very much like if you ever played like Steep. Steep meets like Fortnite, so it's massively multiplayer online. So like you can join these giant corrals of like 60 players or so, and like do these massive, like they call them mass races, and kind of like all be like clashing on a bike trail, or like they have like multi like marathon or triathlon style events where like you'll ride a bike and then you'll be in a wingsuit and then you'll do like a snowmobile or something like that.
Those are nuts.
Those are wild. It's like Fall Guys, kind of like almost like a battle royale, but like in racing form, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And they're extremely tough because there's like, I don't think there's any barrier to like a skill level. It's just kind of like whoever's there.
It's just everybody.
So I don't think, I think I won one of them out of like maybe the 30 that I tried. The game feels alive, which I thought was really cool. Like, cause like,
yeah, it does.
The servers are pretty generously big with how many players are there. And then there's like this announcer that will say like, hey, there's a mass race in this ecosystem, go over here. And like a little point pops up on your map and you like race to it because you have to get there in a certain amount of time to like participate. And so it's really, they push the incentivization really well in that game, I feel. And then like the costumes are really cool. Like you can kind of get really funky, kind of like Fall Guys and Fortnite.
A lot of free options too that you can get with the in-game currency, and there's a few of like the premium stuff. Not a lot of that though. To me, that didn't like inject itself too much into the game, and I liked it. You're right, it did feel alive because like sometimes like someone would just like zip by you and you'd be like, oh my god, I almost crashed.
There's collision too. You can hit other people.
Like I almost crashed into that dude. And I love to also there's like obstacle course, like difficult, like not races. Like I'm going to go slowly across this balance beam across a canyon. And like, that's a challenge and you'll fall a million times. And it does too, when you're just free running or in the race, there's like a reverse feature too, where like, if it's not always allowed, but sometimes you can go back in time a little bit and try something. That way you can just try it again and again and again until you get it. And then you can restart the race from the beginning. And I don't know, it's so fun. It kind of reminds me too of SSX.
Yep.
Did either of you?
Yeah.
Those games were awesome because it's like it was extreme sports, but it just had this arcadey fun feel, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, just like a little bit more detached from reality than it should have been.
Yeah. Preston, do you have anything? I know me and Houston have been talking.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a really cool thing. I like that it's crossplay. That's a huge.
Oh yeah,
huge
it
thing.
was.
It was. I don't remember if I bought it on PS4 or PS5, but it was upgrade free to the next gen. That was cool. Like y'all said, having everybody in a real time lobby. I think you could have 50 or 75 per lobby.
Oh yeah, it was up there for sure.
It's a lot. And they seem to update it quite a bit. I see it on my PlayStation quite a bit updating. My favorite had to be the biking though. I really like
the biking felt probably the best, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the biking too. I think that's what I stuck with the most. I do think the flying was up there too.
Literally.
Just something about snowboarding and skiing didn't quite hit for me as much.
I'd probably agree with that. So the most intense one though is not the rocket wingsuit. It's the passive one, just the glider suit. when you're doing those canyon runs where you can get like 10 feet off the ground above the river and like follow it down the entire mountain. And it's like, I don't know, it's like almost like a 5-minute race. And so like, that's a long time to like be doing that activity like in real life. So it's like the way they kind of like make you feel like you're going fast with all the animations was like a very cool, like visceral type feeling.
Well, one of my favorite things too is like, so there's you can listen to music. There's a lot of music in the game, but then if you get up to a certain speed on those wingsuits or certain times, sometimes what the game will do is the music will like quiet, and then you'll hear your heartbeat in the wind. It'll be like, boom, and the trees are going past you, and you feel the pressure of the speed you're going because you're like, because if you clip. Like sometimes, like on the bike, right, or anything, like sometimes you can kind of like hit something a little bit, but if at those top speeds, you clip anything, you're going down. And so when you feel that heartbeat and sensation,
the wingsuit, you're doing like 130 or so. Like it's crazy fast.
So some of those challenges are like, I love too the difficulty. You could scale it between like, how hard do you want this challenge to be? And if you go for harder, you get more experience and you get more. And experience is kind of just this like you unlock other challenges faster. It's like it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I really liked it. I played it nonstop for like a month.
Yep. So
I remember that.
I had an interesting thing I pulled up while we were talking. So I think the reason that this game probably didn't do as good as it probably could have is because of everything that it was surrounded by in releases during that month. So I looked it up.
Oh, was there a lot of stuff?
Yeah. So check this out. So
it was August of last year. Yeah.
October.
Initial release date August 23rd.
Was it? Oh, so I'm getting. I don't know. I may have had something wrong with this, but maybe it was a platform release like delay or something. Like was it like PC or something?
Let me double check. Oh no, it must have.
Did it get delayed?
It must have gotten delayed. So October 28th.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting to. So fall is release season for most video game companies, like not most, but like a lot of them. And so what it was partnered with was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Back 4 Blood, FIFA 22, NHL 22, Far Cry 6, Metroid Dread, Hot Wheels Unleashed. Let's see what else we got. Battlefield 2042. Like there was a ton of really gigantic games that got released in the same month.
Yeah.
And so
it kind of I didn't even buy it then. I just something about it caught my eye. So I bought it in like December and it became like my Christmas game. It was so hop in and hop out too. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to
and then just leave.
Exactly. Like and like I could play for 30 minutes and actually feel like I had a great time. I'd be like, that was so fun. Let's go do whatever else I need to do. Like take care of the kids. I mean, that's so important as dads. We need to be able to jump into a game. And I would say like it's the first time I felt that feeling since either SSX Tricky or Tony Hawk. Like I really hadn't felt that feeling since one of those games. And SSX Tricky was for the 2000s,
that's
right?
PS2 era, yeah.
And then what was like the last Tony Hawk I played was like 3. So it's been a while.
Also PS2, I think.
So yeah, man, for sure.
So what would you rate this, man?
I don't think it's perfect. I didn't even really play it that long.
I'd give it a 6
out of 10.
Yeah.
Is that good for you? What would you, if you were to put an adjective on what a 6 means?
I'd play it again for sure. I had fun. I do feel like maybe I'm just not like if I put more time in it, I can, like Houston, you said you got first place once. I felt like I couldn't win just being casual. I had fun, but I couldn't win.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's probably why.
I didn't win the what do you call it? The
mass races.
Mass races, but like I won. I was getting first place on all the regular. Like I really didn't do too much of the online. Like I was enjoying the campaign without online, which is great. Like that it had both.
Nice. For me though, I'd probably go with a 7, a strong 7, maybe an 8. But I think a lot of it had to do with the balancing of difficulty, because some of the challenges were like crazy hard, like especially like the wingsuit ones where you have to like fly through the rings and like go like in and out through like the hoodoos and stuff in the mountains and like go through the like fly through the arch gaps and stuff. And then the bike ones, the hardest thing was the like the skill things where you're like going on the beams and like trying not to fall off the sides.
Balance.
Yeah, like I couldn't beat half of those things because they were too technical, I think. And so that balance with how lopsided some of the mass races are, I think kind of took away with some of the fun of it. It just wasn't like as go as I think it should have been. And I also think that like it's very much a jack of all trades, master of none situation. There's so many events and so many different types of like sports and games that like it's just trying to generalize, and like they don't hone in perfectly on any one of them, I don't think.
Yep.
And so I think it suffers from that a little bit too. So yeah, I think I agree with what Metacritic has. It has it at a 77, which I think is pretty apt.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say it's close to an 8. I might even personally give it an 8 because of two main things. One, it just had fun factor for me. Like it, some games, let's take Overwatch, for example, which we talked about in our last episode. Overwatch, if you weren't winning, it wasn't fun. This game was fun even when I didn't win. Like, I could just ride and it was fun. Like, and I feel like a lot of games don't have that, like, that factor of just like pure joy. And one thing we didn't mention too, which I thought made me love this game the most, is I loved the map and world in this game. So it mashed together 7 national parks in the United States. Specifically, mostly Western United States: Bryce Canyon, Yosemite Valley, Sequoia Park, Zion, Canyonlands, Mammoth Mountain, and Grand Teton. And what I love too is there were all kinds of objectives. Of like, yes, there were the hidden things that you could like then equip. Like if you found a crashed plane, you could like equip a jet engine on your back and fly it. It was ridiculous. But then like, sorry if that was a spoiler. we like just talked about that. But then like, if you went to Mammoth Mountain, you could go to these picture parts and then it would show like, it would be like, this is a real place in real life. Here's the facts about like the area and how it was formed. And I literally like was like, I want to go here now. Like this is so incredible to me. And like even biking through like the lower parts of Yosemite and being like, is this what Yosemite is like on the ground? Like not when you're up on the mountain. Like it's so beautiful. And like, I've just never been to a lot of those national parks on the western part of the United States. I've done like Smoky Mountains, but not the West. And it really made me think like, man, I really want to like bring my family here now. And I don't know, I don't know, games don't speak to me like that a lot. A lot of times they're just like, this is cool. But I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, I will definitely echo that. Like the fun factor is 100% there. It is a very like just kind of playable game. Like you can just jump in whenever you want. You don't have to do any of the challenges. You can just roam and sandbox it. And like one of my favorite things with games like this is just like to see how like fast I can get going and then run into a mountain or something. Just like be ridiculous with it. And then also with the national parks thing, I've actually been to a lot of these and they are like, it's such a weird like miniature version of all of these, but they are spot on with like the theming, I think. And like what they actually do, like they have delicate arch from Arches National Park, and like that one looks exactly like it does in real life. And so I think it's a really cool mash of like fantasy and arcadiness versus like the beauty of like nature and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really, really cool. If it's like either included in like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, or if it's on like a pretty steep sale, I would definitely recommend picking it up.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it was like, if it's under $15 or on Game Pass, I'd say grab it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's $18 at Walmart.
That's awesome.
There you go.
I think that's well worth the hours that you would put into it.
Yes,
personally,
for sure.
So we're going to move on. We got a question of the week from a listener. What's going on, listeners? Write in if you've got anything to add, because we'd love to read your question on the show. Colton, for the second time, has written in. We've got a super fan. He says, have you ever had a moral or ethical issue when playing a game where you feel actually guilty when playing? For example, the first time I experienced this was playing Skyrim and going through the Dark Brotherhood storyline. For some reason, I felt quite guilty while playing through its questline, even though Skyrim's borders were littered with the dead bodies left from my wake of savagery. Have you experienced anything like this while gaming? I'll let you guys jump in. What do you guys think?
Preston?
I have never experienced that when gaming, to be very honest.
Whoa.
As far as like, now I felt weird. Like, what was that? Miami, what's that game called? I recommended it to Andy. Dang it, what is that game?
Hotline Miami?
Hotline Miami.
Yeah.
The opening scene there's a little weirdness. No spoilers. There's definitely some like trigger warning things that happen. And that was like, I was like, oh, they put this in a video game. Okay. But I didn't feel like guilty about it personally. Like I didn't feel guilt because it was the game was doing the thing. So, and even playing GTA for all these years, I've never been like, oh man, I shouldn't have robbed that person.
I shouldn't have blown up that car.
Have killed that hooker. Like it's a video game. I don't feel guilty.
Gosh.
That was going to be my example since you said that. As GTA did make me feel like that way when I was in like, I played it for the first time and I was like 15 probably. And I was like, I just like walked up to a car, shot that dude in the head and took his car.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I just something was like, I don't know. That feels not like
maybe
not even.
You had better parents.
Like if I were to pretend that in the park with my friends, yeah, my parents would have been like, "What are you playing?
Right?
Like, kill the hooker? Maybe not." And yeah, I don't know. I definitely have felt that feeling before.
Now, how old were you when you played that?
I said probably 14.
Yeah, I guess
maybe younger.
Ratings and things like that.
I mean, before I certainly not under the mature rating age.
Right.
I also would say this too. Whenever I play a game with like, what do they call that? Morality systems, Paragon systems, where it's like you can go good or bad. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm going to play a villain. But then when like push comes to shove and there's that moment where like you got to be a jerk to the person, not even like kill them, but like I got to like humiliate and shame the person who's like on my team. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I end up being good every time because it's,
goody two shoes, Andy.
I don't, well, I'm also thinking like, is this going to hurt me later? Like, are they going to like not be on my side later? And I got to deal with that. And like, I'm sure there are built in like perks to being that way. I just, in the moment, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
I want to be there. I want to be like, okay, Cult of the Lamb I just played. I was like a benevolent cult leader. I don't think that's how you're supposed to play.
I got one. So this one, just warning straight up, this one deals with some pretty sensitive topics regarding terrorism. So that is a trigger warning for you guys.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Warning real quick before we get into it. So warning over. Modern Warfare 2, the original one released in 2009. I had to look it up to make sure I had my facts right. There's a level called No Russian where you are an undercover CIA operative that is trying to gain the trust of a Russian terrorist. And so the level is really sad graphic. I actually did play this one and felt pretty bad. I was like 17 at the time when this came out. You have to go into a Russian airport and literally like be an active shooter and like massacre people to gain the trust of this terrorist. And it's really dark, and it's like, it gives you, I actually remember this, it gives you an option to skip the mission. It says, you will not be penalized. Do you want to skip this mission? It involves yada, 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 everything I just said. And I think it's never been, nothing like that has ever been put in a video game since on that level, at least. And I think they got a lot of flack for it, but they felt it was necessary to kind of tell the story the way that they wanted to tell it. But yeah, that one for sure, I would say is the darkest, like wildest thing I've ever like seen in a video game that felt real. I was like, hey, situations like this happen.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say, now that you brought that one up, that one probably like, I think I remember getting up after that and being like, I gotta go like not play for a minute.
Yeah.
Because
I remember that too.
So yes, I changed my mind.
The only other one I can think of too is, and I just thought of this while you guys were talking, and I did play that level, but I don't even remember it hitting me that year, but I think I was kind of young to play that game. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just post GTA. It just didn't affect me too much.
This game?
Right.
Yeah. How old are you now?
I'm 33.
33. Yeah. So you'd have been 20 when this came out. This is 2009.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was just getting into college.
That's
because I remember this game was like my college game. Modern Warfare 2, like just online all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was gonna add one more I just thought of was some games too will like, it's not even a choice you make. Sometimes games will like force you between two bad choices. And I like actually hate that.
Yeah.
Like that to me, like The Witcher, there's this one mission where like,
spoiler alert,
I'm not going to be specific, but it's basically like choose this option and you save the kids, but this town dies. Or choose this option and the children die, but you save the town. And I'm like, stop!
That sounds like
That sounds like a
Doc Ock or Green Goblin, like Spider-Man choice right there.
Why are you doing this? And then, like, I've talked about this game in the past too. Your choices have like super rippling effects for like a long time. Or like, hey, here's a couple who are diseased. If you don't murder them, they're going to poison the whole countryside, and you're going to have to deal with a plague the rest of the game.
Yeah,
or murder them right now. Yeah. And you're like, oh,
goodness. So there's a real quick before we end this conversation, because it's getting pretty dark, but The Last of Us makes you do that as well. Like there's a lot of choices that you just like, sometimes there's not even choice. Like you just have to like do something to progress the game. No spoilers at all, because it's the ending, the very end of the first game. There's a choice you have to make as the main character to save someone, and doing that thing is a very, very evil and dark thing, but you're wrestling with this this morality choice of like, what is the greater good? And so I think that's pretty prevalent. A lot of games are like that one for sure hammers it home more than most.
Yeah. I think a lot of times those can be, it really depends. It can be a sign of a good story, or it can be a sign of like a bad story just manipulating your emotions. And like I don't know. Of all the examples we gave, like I don't know, for example, I don't know if the airport scene was necessary for the story to be told.
I don't think it was, but
I mean, if you could skip it and still play the game.
Yeah. And I think this sounds really weird, but it was well told.
Yeah.
Like it was very real feeling.
I mean, it made you feel it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of like what's crossing the line of like what's necessary. I mean, it's art. So it's like, did it get more people to play the game, more people to appreciate the game? I think it caused more controversy than anything.
What's interesting is that like to not do that though would be like, ha ha ha, I'm playing with my friends and we're just killing each other with assault rifles. And like what's worse? Like by not showing a scene with gravitas and emotion, we're all just desensitized and shooting each other with machine guns.
Yeah.
But like a scene like that, it actually at least made you feel the weight of like killing people. In a way, like it like fought against what people say is bad about video games. You're like, well, no, it like you should feel something.
Yeah, they were trying to teach a lesson.
So it is an interesting one. I don't know.
I'm not going to play video games anymore now.
I quit all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, video games cause all violence in the world.
And speaking of Call of Duty, the new Modern Warfare 2 comes out like this month, I think, or it just came out or something, right?
Yeah, Modern Warfare.
Shout out. Gosh.
Yeah. Go Xbox. Anyway, so we're going to wrap this up. One last quick thing. I know we're just slightly going over time here, but I wanted to end with, we love doing our dad tips of the week. Do either of you guys have a good dad tip for us this week before we wrap up?
I'll go.
Yeah, go for it.
I would say, and I don't know if I've said this before, but consistency always breeds growth in positive or negatives. So if you're consistently not consistent, in my opinion, then you're going to have inconsistent things in your life. So like if that's, I don't know, getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, we're very weird about times for our whole family, not just Rhett and I, or Rhett, but the whole family. So like Sunday dinners are very important, and we leave the house at 4 p.m. To get to family dinner with my wife's family. So I think being consistent in the good things helps create positive children, I guess. And being consistently lazy raises lazy children. So that, just a simple thing, consistency breeds growth, is something I heard one time from a friend, and it stuck with me through getting married and now having a kid.
Very good. Very true.
Good one.
Yeah, and I think mine actually kind of ties into that really nicely. So it may have just as well been like a different way to phrase it. I called it "Don't miss the little moments." Be there even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like being there. Like, stay that extra 5 minutes and play with your kid until they fall asleep, or like read them a book, or be overly emphatic about something that they're excited about, because it's going to be good for them to show that you're interested in their lives and their interests, even when they're small, even when they're young. And then you literally can't get that time back. Like your kid is only 1, 2, 3, one time.
Yep.
Yeah. And you only get those moments once, and that's it. So even when you think it's very insignificant, of like, oh, like I don't know, there's a multitude of examples, but yeah, that's it. It's real simple. Just do your best to not miss the little moments and be there for your kid, for your family.
That's good, man. That's good. Before I say mine, just a thought about that was recently I found myself, if we were late for bedtime, I wanted to take away book time, because I was like, guys, it's already 8:30. It's already 9. We can't start reading a book at 9 o'clock. But I really started to be like, is it really their fault that we're going to bed late?
Right.
Like,
they don't have control of that.
Should they really lose book time? Like, that is so important to them, and they love reading, and like, and it's like a moment between us. Like, I shouldn't punish them for me managing poorly our time. And sure, okay, there's an exception. You go to grandma and grandpa's for the holidays. You come back, it's 11 o'clock at night. You got to go. Like, guys, we just have to go to bed tonight. Obviously, there's exceptions. But if it's like 30 minutes, just read a book. Like, read one book instead of 2. I don't know. Whatever your thing is, just like still have a moment with them. So, or like sometimes I'll be like, hey, we won't do a book, but I'll shut off the lights and I'll tell you a story in the dark, because I want you guys to get sleepy. Something like spend time with them. That wasn't even my dad tip. My dad tip was really short. It was just say the key words that you think, but don't, like, say I love you. Say I'm proud of you. Mm-hmm. I think this is especially important for teenagers too, as well as young kids. I think a lot of times as parents, we think like they know. They don't necessarily. They may need to hear directly and clearly, I'm proud of you. And that might even throw them off guard if they haven't heard that for a long time. But just say the words. Say the important things that you think and feel, because sometimes the kids don't I think my dad was surprised at one time when like I expressed that to him when I was a teenager. That I was like, I don't think I've ever heard you say you're proud of me. And he was like, really? He was surprised. Yeah. So like, just say the words.
Yeah. And I wanted to add real quick, like, at least for my tips, like I say these because I'm not great at them and because I want to get better at them. That's where I'm pulling a lot of this from. So like, don't ever think that because we're trying to give you guys advice that we are perfect dads.
That we haven't.
No, far from it.
I think with Preston and Andy, they're probably doing the same thing as me. Like they're just saying like, oh, like this is something I noticed that like was lacking before and that I've started doing and that it's great now because I'm trying to do this and we still fail. I think every day there's some things that we wish we could do better. But yeah, I just wanted to add that little disclaimer there that we don't think we're perfect and we don't think we're like above anybody else, any of our listeners or anything. So we're learning just the same speed as everybody else is here.
Sometimes when giving advice, you can come off as a hypocrite because the people will be like, well, you don't do that. And you're like, I know, but that's like also why I'm giving the advice. Like I'm speaking, 100%. I'm speaking to me too, you know, but cool. All right, guys. Well, that's it for us today. Thank you again so much. We really want to say thank you to everybody for joining, especially if you're coming every week to Dad Casual and just listen to us rant and be silly and sometimes talk about deep things. Like today got rather deep, man. But it was pretty great overall. I hope everybody has a great Halloween spooky season coming up. And just make sure, like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere else. I mentioned leave us a review.
Leave us a review.
There's a lot of different places to do that on obviously the podcast platforms, but just anywhere else that you can find, just shout people out. And if you know a gamer in your life, let them know. You guys have your squad. Let them know. Have them tune in. We'd really like to hear from you. We're definitely trying to grow. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Dad Casual.
See ya.
No spoilers.